inert without the conscious soul, active but only by juxtaposition to that consciousness, by contact with it, as we would say, not so much one at first as indeterminate, triple in its qualities, capable of evolution and involution. The contact of soul and nature generates the play of subjectivity and objectivity, which is our experience of being. What is to us the subjective first evolves because the soul consciousness is the first cause. Inconscient nature force only the second and dependent cause. But still, it is nature and not soul which supplies the instruments of our subjectivity. First, in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power evolving out of nature force, and its subordinate power of discriminating ego. Then, as a secondary evolution, there arises out of these the power which seizes the discriminations of objects, sense, mind, or manas. We must record the Indian names because the corresponding English words are not real equivalents. As a tertiary evolution out of sense mind, we have the specializing organ senses, 10 in number, 5 of perception, 5 of action. Next, the powers of each sense of perception, sound, form, scent, etc., which give their value to objects for the mind and make things what they are to our subjectivity. And as the substantial basis of these, the primary conditions of the objects of sense, the 5 elements of ancient philosophy, or rather elementary conditions of nature, Panchabhuta, which constitute objects by their various combinations.
Thank you, Sarita. Okay, we'll go one by one only. So we are in the chapter called the Yoga of the Intelligent Will. Basically, that same verse 2.39. Esha te bheta sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. 2.39. What you have listened till now, Esha te abhita. Abhita means understood or has been declared. Esha means this. This was in the Sankhya. Okay. This was in the Sankhya क्या बोलते हैं framework. Buddhi, this intelligence till now is in the Sankhya. Now yoge tu imam shrunu. Now you listen to this in the yoga system. So basically from these two words, the chapter titled Sankhya and Yoga, which we covered. Then further, because इसमें आगे जाके 2.53 में श्रुति आता है, which is basically Vedanta. So yeah, Shruti Vipratipanna te etc. Pura ka pura. So that is why the next chapter was there, Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta. Uske pehle the verses which speak, basically they say that the Karma Kanda and all that was being done during the those times, that was the understanding of the Veda that was followed. So it's only merely said, it's just giving you heaven. It's not giving you the ultimate goal of life, which is the Brahman consciousness and so on. Usse wo agla chapter aaya tha, Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta, which we had spent so much time. So in the same sort of the sequence में उसमें, तो अभी that is why he is referring back to the Sankhya, वो उसकी बात कर रहे हैं, because उसमें रेफरेंस दिया था सांख्य का, there was some elaboration, but I mean that primary, secondary, tertiary, the way he is explaining this now, he had not told this in this manner, and this is to be found in the Sankhya Karika. ईश्वर कृष्ण की जो है. सो या जस्ट टू मेक इट एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर, वो यहाँ पे इसको बता रहे हैं. ठीक है. सो वी मस्ट रिमेंबर द साइकोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर of the Sankhya which the Gita accepts. I'm just seeing the previous paragraph's last sentence. Works are inferior, says the teacher, to yoga of the intelligence. Desire rather refuge in the intelligence. Poor and wretched souls are they who make the fruit of their works the object of their thoughts and activities. Essentially, वही works being karma, prakriti को वो belong करते हैं. And the aim is to first of all recover that Purusha consciousness, which is by the recovery of which alone can that perfect freedom be attained. Okay. As long as you are not having that poise in your consciousness, which is totally free from the movements of Prakriti, you will not have the true freedom. Okay. This has to be understood clearly. Okay. Mother at one place, when she defines freedom, she says true freedom is to be free from desires. Desire is the main motive force in the lower nature. Okay, like that. So in continuation, basically, that Purusha and Prakriti wala sara, we must remember the psychological order of the Sankhya which the Gita accepts. ये जो यहाँ पे आगे बोलने वाले हैं, this is a reference to 3rd chapter, verse number 42. Verse number 42. Okay? We must remember this. I'll show it as necessary, जैसे आएगा. We must remember the psychological order of the Sankhya which the Gita accepts. On one side, there is the Purusha, the soul, calm, inactive, immutable, Shanta, Akarmanya, तरह से inactive, immutable, Aksharam, one, Ekam, not evolutive, जिसके अंदर से कुछ इवॉल्व नहीं होता, unchanging है. Okay. Anything were to come out of that, then it would be said to be mutable. That is one way of taking it. On one side, there is the Purusha, the soul, calm, inactive, immutable, one, not evolutive. On the other side, there is Prakriti or nature force. Nature - force, inert, without the conscious soul, active, but only by juxtaposition. Juxtaposition means putting side by side. Active, but only by juxtaposition to that consciousness. That consciousness mane to the Purusha. So as long as it does not get next to it or is placed along with it, basically by contact with it, as we would say, yeah, not so much one at first as indeterminate. Yeah. So it's not the element of couple of things here actually in the second part of the sentence. First part is okay, इसमें कुछ इतना explanation required नहीं है. Yeah. So the Prakriti is basically active, but only by it because it's unconscious ना, उसके अंदर कोई consciousness ही नहीं है. It becomes active only by juxtaposition to that consciousness. If the Purusha withdraws its juxtaposition, if it withdraws its consent, then the Prakriti falls into a static equilibrium. There is no action. The gunas fall into a state of equilibrium, and basically you are absorbed in the silence of the Purusha. Okay? By contact with it, by contact with the Purusha, it is then that the Prakriti becomes active, which is why Mother said in her message explaining her relation with Sri Aurobindo, without him, I exist not. Without me, he is unmanifest. So there, if you take Mother as Prakriti, right? So Mother is properly speaking in the language of the Gita, Para Prakriti. But without him, I exist not. जब तक वो पुरुष का support नहीं रहेगा, contact नहीं रहेगा, it's as if the Prakriti is not there at all. Without him, I exist not. Without me, he is unmanifest. Without the Shakti, the divine cannot manifest. Okay. Since it is a relevant reference, that's why I'm sharing it here. Connected reference, I should say. And then what about the Prakriti? By contact with it, as we would say, uska characteristic kya hai? Not so much one at first. It's not so much that you feel the oneness of the Prakriti, but what do you feel? Indeterminate. Determinate का क्या मतलब होता है? If you understand it in the etymological sense, it really helps. So the term TERM, वैसे we understand what is determination. So something is there, but then you can determine it, you can define it in a certain way. Again, fine, term, ये दोनों जो words है ना, fin, having the sense of end, finality, okay? FIN in that define. Determinate, term, end. So basically sant, स प्लस अंत, उसको एक क्या बोलना चाहिए, एक लिमिटेशन देना. Manifestation means giving a certain form, and it means a kind of limitation. The divine is infinite, anantam, satyam jnanam anantam brahma. He is interminable. But when the manifestation happens, then he becomes determinate. Determine का मतलब वही है. The simple English word determine. I have determined. So it means that you have basically encapsulated it in your mind. You have limited it. I mean, you have basically grasped it. And the moment you have grasped something, this is psychologically something quite astounding to understand. The moment you say that you have grasped it, it means you have limited it, because आपने उसको पकड़ लिया ना. And the moment you say मैंने पकड़ लिया, that means you have kind of limited it. You have termed it, given it a start term and an end term like that. Whereas what happens in the truth, that is the progressively, you grow into this, which basically absorbs you into its infinity. Rather than, you cannot attain the divine that way. You can lose yourself in the divine through bhakti, through karma yoga, etc., etc. Okay? Important point. Very important point. कि उसको पकड़ने की चेष्टा से ज्यादा उसके अंदर हमको अपने आप को सरेंडर करने की चेष्टा करनी चाहिए. ठीक है. The moment you say that you have determined it, you've already falsified it, because the truth by definition, बार बार बोल रहा हूं, is infinite. It is interminable. Okay. That is why the Kena Upanishad says, na tatra vagacchati no mano na vidmo na vijanimo. There the mind reaches not, because mind will limit it. Okay, no more on this limitation wala subject. Enough said. Not so much one at first as indeterminate. यहाँ पे जो हमने एक श्लोक किया था 13th chapter का, I think the 6th श्लोका, महाभूतान्यहंकारो बुद्धिर अव्यक्तमेव च. That avyaktam, that unmanifest state. So it is not determined, it is not manifested. Yeah, it was 13 point, नहीं 6 नहीं है. महाभूतान्यहंकारो, हाँ, number 6. Yeah, महाभूतान्यहंकारो बुद्धिर अव्यक्तमेव च. That one.
Anmol, I would like to say something. Please let me know when.
Please go ahead.
I wanted to ask, during death, when a person dies, the Purusha withdraws itself.
Correct.
Okay. And
in Shri Aurobindo's language, it is the Chaitya Purusha which has left the body. The psychic being, what he calls psychic being in English, a term coined by him, he had settled on Chaitya Purusha as the Sanskrit equivalent. And if a person dies, then in the language of Purusha, you will say that the Chaitya Purusha has left the Sharira.
Okay. And now you were just talking about determination, right? Determined, So,
आपका वॉइस ब्रेक हो रहा है जीती. Hello?
Something. So it is determined by, it is come.
No, I couldn't hear you for a few seconds. I couldn't hear you for a few seconds. Please say again.
Okay. Now, when Purusha Prakriti is active, in accordance with Purusha, in juxtaposition,
so yeah,
something
in accordance कहना चाहिए, या उससे better we can say when the
juxtaposition.
Purusha is there along with the Prakriti,
Yes,
then
yes.
she gets that power to act. When the Purusha
Act.
identifies himself with the Prakriti.
Yes. And now when this happens, so that means when so for example, a
Yeah,
child takes
exactly. So the
birth,
moment the Purusha has left the body, so the
the
body falls
death.
flat, the Prakriti is dead. Yeah.
Yes. And now when a child takes birth, that means Purusha and
The
Prakriti.
child
Now
takes
that
birth means
child
that the psychic being has entered into the
has,
body.
yes. So the word determined that you used just now here,
Voice is
you get
breaking,
my point?
GT.
The
No,
word that
voice. I
determined
could
that you
only hear
used
the word
just now,
determined
that
that you
means,
have used here. Please say again.
okay. Now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, once the body is formed in any way, whether human body or plants or anything, कहते हैं ना, जिसका विकास जिसकी उत्पत्ति हुई है उसका विनाश निश्चित है. So
गीता का ही
because it
श्लोक
is,
है. गीता का ही श्लोक है. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवम जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद् अपरिहार्येऽर्थे नत्वं शोचितुम् अर्हसि. 2.27.
so that means that is the word determined that you were. It comes into kind of a
Yeah, correct.
determined thing,
Absolutely.
Am
Absolutely.
I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. See, the moment you have put on this body, okay,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you have determined, आपने अपने एक term लगा दी ना, ये मैं इतनी,
हाँ.
if you are identified with the body, what will you think? I am this 5 foot 4 inches and इतना thick और इतना depth वगैरह, ठीक है?
हाँ,
एक टर्म हो
right,
गया ना,
right.
लिमिट हो गया ना. सिमिलरली मेरी लाइफ एनर्जी लिमिटेड है, आई विल लिव फॉर 80-90 years whatever. मेरा माइंड लिमिटेड है, देयर इज ओनली सो मेनी थिंग्स दैट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड और डेल्व इनटू, देयर आर सम थिंग्स व्हिच आर बियॉन्ड माय रीच, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. दिस कैन टेक डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स इन डिफरेंट पीपल. तो आपने अपने एक बंधन लगा दिए ना, बट दैट इज हाउ एवोल्यूशन हैपेंस. इट हैज टू बी
Yeah.
अंडरस्टूड. इट कैन नॉट गो
So that,
फ्रॉम टर्मिनेट टू टोटल इंटरमिनेबल इन वन क्लिक. ऐसे नहीं होता. दिस इज द
yeah,
प्रोसेस ऑफ एवोल्यूशन.
evolution, right. Thank you, Anmol.
By this word indeterminate in the sentence, what is this word referring to? Prakriti?
Yes. Not so much one at first as indeterminate. कि सब कुछ उसके अंदर पोटेंसी फॉर्म में है, बट अभी तक वो डिटरमिन नहीं हुआ है. अव्यक्त, अनमैनिफेस्ट है एक तरह से.
But unmanifest तो पुरुष है ना?
प्रकृति का भी तो जो वो ओरिजिनल फॉर्म होता है, जो अव्यक्तम बोलते हैं इन द 24 प्रिंसिपल्स, इफ यू रिमेंबर दैट प्योर एनर्जी. पुरुषा इज नॉट इवन कॉल्ड एनर्जी. पुरुषा इज सिंपली कॉल्ड कॉन्शियसनेस.
Okay.
Got it?
So this indeterminate position is that avyakta in the 24
Yeah,
elements.
that's what I am able to understand. Yeah. आप
Because-
उससे अभी, to be safe, if we don't map it to that, we just take it as indeterminate, कि अभी वो indeterminate है, अभी उसमें से कुछ determine नहीं हुआ. It is in a kind of potency state. Nothing has come out of it. Nothing has been determined. Okay.
The way you defined the Purusha and the Prakriti and what you explained to GT on Prakriti, you said that the moment Prakriti comes into formation, it is limited, it is determined. But here he's using the term indeterminate for Prakriti.
नहीं तो जब वो मैं जिसकी बात कर रहा हूं, उस टाइम आते आते तक तो बहुत कुछ हो चुका है. द यूनिवर्सल प्रकृति हैज बीन फॉर्म्ड एंड ऑलरेडी द इंडिविजुअल प्रकृति विच इज गिविंग बर्थ टू यू हैज बीन फॉर्म्ड. वो सब हो चुका है. तो इट्स नॉट द सेम थिंग्स दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट टू डिफरेंट लेवल्स. यहां पे जो वो बात कर रहे हैं, वो क्रिएशन के बिगिनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So
Here he is not talking about the birth of a human being. Yeah.
basically, this nature, this Prakriti, this Srishti is a determined form of Brahm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The Purusha.
It is the determination of the Brahman, of the divine. The divine has determined himself like this right now. या ये कह सकते हैं कि उनकी जो खुद की डिटर्मिनेशन है अपने बारे में, that he has expressed in this form right now.
Form.
Okay. Even Life Divine में, for example, just these 3 words, world is Maya. उसके बाद सेमीकोलन आता है. ठीक है. तो माया का क्या मतलब होता है? What does the word ma mean? What does the consonant ma mean? Limitation, finality, completion. उसका पहला मीनिंग कॉन्सोनेंट का है फाइनैलिटी, सॉरी लिमिटेशन. वॉल्यूम 14 में पेज 601 पे 601 या 602. तो माया means that which gives the illimitable, the anant, the appearance of limitation. माया शब्द का मतलब ही यही, एटिमोलॉजिकल मीनिंग मतलब शाब्दिक अर्थ. म means limitation, that which gives the infinite the appearance of finite. माया की ये डेफिनेशन है वेदांत में. ओके, अगेन वही वर्ल्ड इज माया, वहीं से वो आया. आगे बढ़ते हैं. वी बीन काइंड ऑफ या ट्रिपल इन इट्स क्वालिटीज. What are those qualities we know? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The equivalent when they are transformed, what are they? Sattva becomes Jyotihi, the supramental illumination. Rajas becomes Tapas, pure energy. That restlessness, that क्या कहना चाहिए, muddy waters के लिए जो word होता है, that sort of thing from Rajas is gone. All that is gone. And Tamas, when transformed, becomes Shama, perfect peace. Okay. Yeah. As indeterminate, triple in its qualities, capable of evolution and involution. So the Purusha he's saying is not evolutive, whereas the Prakriti is capable of evolution and involution. Evolution मतलब बाहर आना, involution मतलब छुप जाना, involve होना और evolve होना.
Anmol bhai, the evolution part is something you've said again and again, and it's easy to understand that Prakriti is evolving,
Yes.
right? But involution means that Prakriti, even if you come to the three gunas and you come to being aware that it's a play of energy, when you involute, you are
What happens?
you still don't come back to the source of pure energy, right?
नहीं तो involution का मतलब क्या है वो समझना पड़ेगा ना. What involution means is that basically that जो वो divine consciousness है pure, जो सच्चिदानंद है, ठीक है, that Satchidananda becomes more and more hidden until it finally becomes the inconscient. That is what the word involution means. It is the process by which the divine progressively hides himself and becomes what is called inconscient, which gives the appearance, the word gives the appearance that uske andar consciousness bilkul nahi hai, but the divine plunges into that also, so it is only apparently inconscient. वास्तव में उसके अंदर भी consciousness है because the divine is there, but for all practical purposes it becomes like the inconscient. सारा जो क्या कहना चाहिए, even from the Rigvedic times when they say this या पुराण में जो उसको बोलते हैं समुद्र मंथन, तो व्हाट इज दैट समुद्र? इट इज द इनकॉन्शियंट, जिसको श्री अरविंदो की लैंग्वेज में इनकॉन्शियंट बोलते हैं. इन द ऋग्वेदा इट इज कॉल्ड अप्रकेतम सलिलम. बेसिकली अगेन चलो वो तो वर्ड्स पे वाली बात हुई, वर्ड्स डोंट एक्सप्लेन वर्ड्स दैट वे. सो दैट हाइडिंग ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस, दैट सेल्फ concealment of consciousness, why it happens, then that is like another question. But that is what involution means. अब वो प्रकृति में ही तो है. All this is part of प्रकृति. Let's say कि आपको mind तक समझ में आता है, mind के ऊपर is beyond us, obviously. But that mind further involves itself and becomes vital. I'm talking about the hidden planes. I'm talking about the planes which are supraphysical, right? Mental planes are already existing. Vital planes are already existing. Subtle physical plane is already existing. All this is there in Savitri. But वो mind plane के अंदर से ही तो involve होकर के वो vital बना है. That vital further involves and becomes subtle physical. That subtle physical further, it's basically the involution of consciousness. Consciousness अपने आप को ढकती चली जा रही है, ढकती चली जा रही है, and wherever consciousness traverses like this, वो पूरे के पूरे gradations बनते जाते हैं planes के. That is how the involution happens, right?
Got it.
And finally, when that self-concealment is complete, then you arrive at what is called inconscient.
Got it. So when you have extreme end, it comes to inconscient. When you have extreme what? And when you evolve, involution, extreme involution gets you to inconscient.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. The final point is it becomes inconscient, as if there is no
as if there is
this
no
life in it, but actually Prakriti as if.
Yes.
And if we go to the other extreme, complete evolution would then be complete awareness of the Purusha.
Satchidananda, yes. The Purusha's nature is pure Satchidananda. So existence, consciousness, bliss.
So the fact that it is Prakriti which experiences bliss, because you need the manifest which you just explained. So evolution is Prakriti actually experiencing the ultimate, which is Satchitananda.
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that.
So inconscient is darkness.
It is also called darkness, yes. Darkness माने क्या? See, it means that apparently there is no light of consciousness over there. वहां चेतना का as if total अभाव है. In that sense, it is darkness. It's not in the sense of physical darkness is a matlab example or a symbol to understand that darkness of consciousness. It is a darkness of consciousness.
अनमोल,
हाँ. Yes, GT?
ये एवोल्यूशन एंड इन्वोल्यूशन का एग्जांपल वो भी तो हो सकता है ना, जैसे स्पाइडर इट मेक्स द वेब एंड देन इट टेक्स इट
Yeah, you can
बैक,
say
यू नो,
that. So it spreads the web. That is the evolution, आप कह सकते हैं. And it takes it
evolution,
inward. That
and
is,
when
you
it
can
goes
say.
withdraws,
Perfectly.
it is involution, right?
How does the word form? आप समझें. Evolve. E उसको break करें. जो prefix है, that is E. जो volve है, that comes from volvere. It is a Greek root, which means to roll. So evolve means literally what? Outrolling. That is what the word literally means. Involve means what? Enrolling. छुपा लेना अपने अंदर. बस. रूट पकड़ में आ जाने से बहुत हेल्प हो जाता है. दैट इज व्हाई एटिमोलॉजी इज समथिंग परस्यू करना चाहिए. ओके. Triple in its qualities, capable of evolution and involution. The contact of soul and nature generates the play of subjectivity and objectivity. Yeah. So it is soul basically which is the subject, जो देख रहा है, जिसके लिए ये सब हो रहा है. He is the subject. He is the watcher. The contact of soul and nature generates the play of subjectivity and objectivity, which is our experience of being. Another way, जो normally subjectivity और objectivity की definition होती है, objective is something concrete and subjective is basically something which is based on your opinion. That is what is called subjective. Okay. The contact of soul and nature generates the play of subjectivity and objectivity, which is our experience of being. We experience the objective world, okay, and we experience ourselves. Who are we? We are the subject, isn't it? Both are happening, which is our experience of the being. What is to us the subjective first evolves because the soul consciousness is the first cause, inconscient nature force only the second and dependent cause. But still it is nature and not soul which supplies the instruments of our subjectivity. 1 second. What is to us the subjective first evolves. Okay, because the soul consciousness is the first cause. ऊपर से अगर देखें तो inconscient nature force only the second and dependent cause. But still it is nature and not soul which supplies the instruments of our subjectivity. This we can understand the sentence only when we read further on. First in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power evolving out of nature force. Now we have to go back to that shloka 13.6. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani दशैकम च पंचचेंद्रिय गोचराः. ये श्लोक है 13.6. Yeah, this one. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhi avyaktam indriyani दशैकम panchacha indriya gocharaha. Mahabhutani 5, the 5 great elements, fire, water, air, etc. Ahankaraha 6, buddhi 7, avyaktam 8, indriyani dasha plus ekam. Dashaikam means 11, 8 plus 11, 19, and panchacha indriya gocharaha. 5, the things in which the indriyas move, जिनमें इंद्रियों का जो गो है, उनकी जो लाइट है लिटरली वो चर होती है, जिनके अंदर इंद्रियां गोचर होती हैं. हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना दृष्टि गोचर. in very pure Hindi, you will not say कि I saw that. You will say वह जब मुझे दृष्टि गोचर हुआ. That is how we say, right? वो संस्कृत से ही आता है. So basically the objects of the senses. What is the objects of the senses? Okay, yeah. So we have to refer to this while we read this. First in order come buddhi. So from the avyaktam, from that pure unmanifested potential energy, infinite energy. Okay, from that first he says comes buddhi. This is in the Sankhya he is explaining. First in order come buddhi. It's very, very important. इसीलिए even if we have to go at very, very slow pace, we will do it. First in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power evolving out of nature force. ये जो nature force है, this is basically that avyaktam, that pure energy. Okay? प्रकृति का एकदम मूल रूप, इसी को बोलते हैं मूल प्रकृति. इसी को सांख्य में, if I'm not mistaken, it is called pradhan. Yeah. हाँ. And its subordinate power of self-discriminating ego. पहले उस अव्यक्तम में से निकला बुद्धि, then from that buddhi, ego. That's what he's saying here. Then
Anmol bhai, just a pause here.
Please.
If you look at from avyaktam, comes out buddhi.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that you see that I feel I exist. My first, if you say I Anmol, I say I Yogesh. So that's ego.
That's ego.
So even before this ego, there is buddhi.
Yeah. एक जगह आया था ना कि इट्स इन द रिवर्स ऑर्डर या ऐसे कुछ था. By contact, which is what is to us the subjective first evolves. जो हमारे लिए subjective है वो कह रहे हैं. वो आगे एक्चुअली आगे का पढ़ेंगे तब समझ में आएगा.
Okay.
अभी नहीं आएगा. First in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power. Discriminate मतलब अलग अलग करना, पृथक करना. विवेक का एक वो भी होता है, डिस्क्रिमिनेट भी बोलते हैं. ठीक है. और determinative power. Now from that interminable, that which is basically ananta, therefore it cannot have any rupa. Infinite कैसे एक form लेगा? You start giving some kind of term, some kind of end. You start determining it. ठीक है. इसको अगर डिटेल में किसी को समझना है डिटर्मिनेशन वगैरह वाला, तो there is a very मतलब metaphysical chapter in the Life Divine. I'll share the link to that later on. बुक 2 में indeterminates, cosmic determination, इस तरह से. That is the most comprehensive treatment of the subject of this determine and all this. तो वो लाइफ डिवाइन में है, वो इस बुक में नहीं है, वो हो ही नहीं सकता. इट्स आउट ऑफ द स्कोप ऑफ दिस बुक. ओके. Yeah, first in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power evolving out of nature force, and its subordinate power of self-discriminating ego. Ahankara, buddhi, ahankara. Then as a secondary evolution, there arises out of these, out of the ego, the power which seizes the discrimination of objects. Discriminations of objects, sorry. Sense, mind or manas. Sense, mind. Manas. Indriyanam manaschasmi. That is that faculty जब वो develop हो जाती है, then you start getting clairaudience or clairvoyance वगैरह. When that manas, that pure manas is so developed. When you don't need the senses, when you don't need the ear to hear what, you can hear at a distance because the manas has become so developed. Yeah. Which seizes the objects of, discriminations of objects, sense, mind or manas. M capital है. We must record the Indian names because the English words are not real equivalents. ये बात श्री अरविंदो Synthesis of Yoga में भी कहते हैं कि sometimes it is binding and necessary to use Sanskrit terms because basically the understanding of these things, understanding of existence, understanding of this depth of psychology, it has not been done in the English basically systems. So they do not have proper words for it. So the use of Sanskrit terms is necessary. The Sanskrit term here is manas. संधि वो विसर्ग हट जाता है तो it becomes simply manah or mano. That is the form it takes in Sanskrit. Okay. As a tertiary evolution, tertiary matlab तीसरा, out of sense mind. So first is the avyaktam, that is the indeterminate state of prakriti. Then there is the buddhi, then there is the ahankara, then there is the manas. And then from the manas, out of sense mind, we have the specializing organic senses, 10 in number, 5 of perception, 5 of action. This is very easy to understand. The मतलब eyes and the, और ये again जो sense है, so the organ is actually the physical organ, but the faculty itself, वो जो देखने का जो वो power है, that is something which is beyond the physical organ itself. So like in the 11th chapter, when Shri Bhagavan says, Divyam dadami te chakshuhu pashyame yogameshwaram. So it is not with the charma chakshu that Arjuna sees the divine, right? It is with the divya chakshu. Why I am saying this now? Because that divya chakshu is not having these physical organs. अगर वो अंधा भी होता तो भी उसके दिव्य चक्षुओं से वो उसको देख सकता था. So that power is basically that chakshu. ठीक है, ये उसका organ है. Similarly for the other 4, hearing, smell, taste and touch, etc. Yeah. सूरदास के बारे में I believe ये कहा जाता है कि even though he was blind, but because of his intense devotion for Krishna, he was sort of constantly having a vision of Krishna. Sometimes Gopal is playing with him, कभी उनके कंधे पे चढ़ रहा है or something of this sort. So he was seeing it, even though he did not have the charma chakshu. As a tertiary evolution out of sense mind, we have the specializing organic senses, 10 in number, 5 of perception. This is what is called percept. Perception word का ये मतलब है कि आपने कुछ देखा, आपने उसको perceive किया, and that percept is stored in your chitta. The manas grasps it, percept बनाया manas ने, and then it is stored in the chitta. This is the traditional Indian psychology. Okay. 5 of action, we know that locomotion, grasping, excretion, evacuation, that wala, and the speech wala power, right? 5 of action. Next, इसके बाद, the powers of each sense of perception, sound, form, scent, etc. Now, what is the beautiful thing which we can catch from this? We have come down to the last level already इसमें. Next, the powers of each sense of perception. Sound, इसको बोलते हैं तन्मात्र. तन्मात्र. आप इसको ब्रेक करेंगे तत्मात्र. तत् माने that, मात्र माने केवल. बस यही है. आप, if you try to imagine, either you will say, imagine कि I saw that, or I heard that, or I tasted that, or I smelt that, or I touched that. Beyond that, you can't even imagine. मात्र तत्, और कुछ है ही नहीं. तन्मात्र जो भी है वो यही है. भगवान को भी आप देखोगे ना या सुनोगे ना. Dilip Kumar Roy, a great disciple of Sri Aurobindo, towards the end of his life, around 4 years, 5th September 1976 was the date on which he started hearing the flute of Krishna. He was hearing it till the end of his life, 1980, like that. Like so many other things, I say visions, vagera, and all these things. Sound, form, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These are the 5 Sanskrit words. Shabda, pure Sanskrit. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Corresponding to the Karnendriya. पंचभूतानी में अगर बोलें तो वो ईथर corresponds. ये सब मैं पहले किया था तो I don't think it is necessary to repeat. किसी को डाउट हो तो पूछ सकते हैं. Which give the, हाँ,
Can you repeat Shabda Rasa?
No, नहीं. The order is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Corresponding to Akasha or Kham, as it called in Gita, गीता में 7.4 में आता है
हाँ।
भूमिरापो नलो वायु खम, वहां पे वो बॉटम टू टॉप जा रहे हैं, बट खम इज बेसिकली फॉर आकाश, और आकाश और खम कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग टू दैट इज शब्द, वायु उसके कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग स्पर्श, शब्द स्पर्श, रूप कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग इज फायर, गीता में उसको वहां पे बोलते हैं भूमिरापो अनलह, एंड दिस वन रस corresponding to apah or water, and gandh corresponding to the bhu element among the panch mahabhutani.
It's shabda, sparsha, then
Rupa, rasa, gandh. और ये वाला जो श्लोक है भूमिरापो नलो वायु खम, this is 7.4 of the Gita.
yeah.
Okay.
So the five of perception is the physical one, the eyes.
Five of perception are the eyes.
The physical, हाँ.
Yeah,
eyes.
physical. और उसमें भी again Sarita,
हाँ.
please understand the difference between the sense and the organ of sense. यही मैं बोल रहा हूँ.
Yes. So the powers of each sense of perception.
Yes.
These are the shabda, rasa, and all.
Yeah, these are the objects of those senses.
हाँ, तन्मात्रा.
एक तो हुआ इंद्रिय और एक हुआ इंद्रिय का विषय.
Yes.
इसको हाँ संस्कृत में बोलते हैं विषय.
Yeah.
ठीक है. Yeah.
I have a question here.
हाँ.
So this is coming in that 13.6.
Yes.
So that is that kshetra and kshetrajna.
Yes.
So then in that, if a person already has a body, that is the kshetra. So उसमें अव्यक्तम कहाँ है? अव्यक्तम तो is for the pure that nature, ना? Nature force. उसमें तो फिर वो ही आएंगे ना, बुद्धि and ego and ये सब आएंगे ना?
That chapter does not explain just okay, Sarita, I got your point. So the chapter title is Kshetra Kshetrajna Yoga, but there are 4 other things which are explained in that chapter. पहला श्लोक उसका क्या है? प्रकृतिम पुरुषम चैव क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञमेव च एतत् वेदितुमिच्छामि ज्ञानम ज्ञेयम च केशव. So tell me what is Prakriti. So that answer comes to that question कि what is Prakriti.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay. So he's actually not explaining the.
He's not explaining Kshetra or Kshetrajna. That answer is part of what is Prakriti.
Okay.
मैं भी एक बार चेक कर लेता हूँ. Yeah.
क्षेत्र I'm not getting anything. I mean, मुझे इसमें थोड़ा सा अभी भी डाउट है, क्लियर नहीं हुआ है.
हाँ, देखिए कनेक्टेड तो सारा है, ठीक है. ऑब्वियसली व्हाट इज द क्षेत्र? इट इज द बॉडी, है ना?
Yeah.
और इफ यू से दिस इज द स्थूल शरीर, सूक्ष्म शरीर, कारण शरीर, वो तीनों बॉडीज मिला करके है तो बॉडी ही. वो नेचुरली प्रकृति का पार्ट है, इसमें कोई डाउट थोड़ी है ना? वो बना किससे, गठित किससे? बॉडी भी तो पंच महाभूतानी का ही बना है. तो अगर हम क्षेत्र के एक्सप्लेनेशन के रिलेशन में महाभूतानी की बात करते हैं, अच्छा आप जो कह रही थी कि वो अव्यक्तम है, वो कहाँ है? हाँ,
क्योंकि वो तो ऑलरेडी मैनिफेस्ट हो गया.
फाइन फाइन फाइन, बट समवेयर और दी अदर, ये आप ना उसको डिस्कनेक्टेड रूप से समझ रही हैं. अल्टीमेटली जो भी आपके सिस्टम में फंक्शनिंग हो रही है, वो तो यही तो मैं लिंक बनाना चाह रहा था, वो कहां से रहा? वो तो वहीं से रहा ना, एकदम टॉप से.
ओके.
नाउ लिसन इट, अंडरस्टैंड लाइक दिस. एक सेकंड, इसमें कितना रह गया? ओके, दिस विल बी कवर्ड. लिसन, राइट एट द टॉप इज द पुरुषोत्तम, ठीक है? आप उसको अभी उत्तम मत लगाओ, आप सिंपली उसको पुरुष बोलो. द पुरुष, वेद में उसको वही बोलते हैं, सिंपली द पुरुष, मतलब द डिवाइन. ओके, फ्रॉम दैट पुरुष, उसकी जो परा प्रकृति है, जिसको शक्ति भी बोलते हैं, दैट शक्ति बेसिकली यू कैन से ब्रिंग्स आउट द अपरा प्रकृति, द नेचर विच इज द एग्जीक्यूटिव फोर्स ऑफ द डिवाइन. वो जो एग्जीक्यूटिव फोर्स है, अपरा प्रकृति है, उसका पहला रूप क्या है? दैट अव्यक्तम, प्योर एनर्जी। वो जो शक्ति है वो तो इनडिस्क्राइबेबल है, दैट यू कांट इवन, आई डोंट नो व्हाट टू कॉल इट, चित शक्ति बोलते हैं, but it is infinite.
So
And again, it is very difficult to distinguish between that avyaktam of the apara and that pure chit shakti. उसका बीच में वो कैसे transition होता है, that I can't say. हाँ, अरोड़ा जी आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
to me, the whole para starting with whatever you started is only primarily the repetition what Sri Aurobindo has already
Yes,
explained.
primarily the repetition.
No, now the only point which I think I would like to emphasize about the subjectivity and objectivity.
हाँ बोलिए.
Now, subjectivity, anything subjective can never be made object, can never be made an object.
हाँ.
Even the buddhi cannot buddhi is part of the objectivity.
हाँ.
Objective, objects,
Subject.
not
हाँ.
subject is the basically the purusha in whatever form you.
That is fine. वो जो आप बोल रहे हैं वो उस सेंस में है. But if you
But
understand,
my submission is in the whole para you have tried to bring the concepts of life divine or Sri Aurobindo, evolution. They are all in seed form. They are not explicitly said in Sankhya. That's what I understand.
they are not explicitly said.
In the Sankhya.
Obviously not. They are not so said in the
because
Sankhya.
you are supplementing and
नहीं,
rather
मैंने ज्यादा सप्लीमेंट नहीं किया. मैंने
I'm
तो
not
लाइफ डिवाइन
there
के
is
चैप्टर का टाइटल दिया है. हाँ. Here he
there
is
is
simply
no
explaining
objection
the
to
सांख्य
that. I
कि
am saying
सांख्य में
this,
वो एवोल्यूशन इन्वोल्यूशन कैसे होता
this
है.
particular
श्री अरविंदो केवल ये समझा रहे हैं यहाँ पे.
this is a very small, this is para basically about the Sankhya which he has already described.
Yeah. But see, exposure is already there to other things also ना, तो उसको छोड़ना क्यों है? Rather than postpone it.
नहीं.
हाँ.
Because
Now
his
to come
first
back to what
sentence
Sarita.
itself
अच्छा,
says
मैं इवन
that
आपकी पॉइंट बोल रहा हूँ अरोड़ा जी. आप कह रहे हैं कि सब्जेक्टिव जो है वो ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं बन सकता. सुप्रीम सब्जेक्ट कौन है? भगवान है ना,
subject
ब्रह्म है ना सुप्रीम सब्जेक्ट. एक मिनट, ऑब्जेक्ट
तो
कौन बना है? ब्रह्म ही तो बना है. So it is the same Brahman which
नहीं.
is the ultimate subject and which becomes the object.
No, we are not arguing because the Sankhya
Yes.
has got a
Yes.
is a
Sankhya
weakness.
is dualistic.
because
Sankhya is dualistic. Sankhya does not
It
have that
doesn't-
unity which Vedanta has.
It doesn't talk of multiplicity of Purusha.
Yes.
So that is the
नहीं,
spark.
I think it speaks of the multiplicity of Purusha. It
uh,
does speak. वो उसको reconcile नहीं करता है properly.
correct. Okay.
अच्छा हाँ, और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, वरना वो रह जाएगा तो सेशन का जो आई थिंक. हाँ, आप ये जो है ना, ये सारा जो बॉडी है, ये जो है चर्म जो है एकदम, ठीक है, ये क्या है? ये मटेरियल क्या है? श्री अरविंदो क्या बोलते हैं? ब्रह्मन इज नॉट ओनली द कॉज एंड सपोर्टिंग पावर एंड इनड्वेलिंग प्रिंसिपल ऑफ द यूनिवर्स, ही इज ऑल्सो इट्स मटेरियल एंड इट्स सोल मटेरियल. ये ब्रह्म है, ठीक है. लाइफ डिवाइन पेज 256 पे पॉइंट. ये बना कैसे है? दिस इज द क्वेश्चन. ओके, नाउ ये जो है, अगर आप इसको बोलें, जो बॉडी है बेसिकली, ठीक है, अर्थ एलिमेंट, अगर बेसिकली जो स्थूल शरीर होता है उसका क्रिएशन होता है, मैंने पहले ही बताया, पंचीकरण मैंने बताया था कि स्थूल शरीर के जो धातु हैं उसमें मिक्सचर है. तो जो अगेन बहुत डिटेल में हो रहा है, पहले भी कर चुका हूं. बेसिकली एक मिनट, बेसिकली ये पृथ्वी, अगर आप इसको मानो, अगर ये पृथ्वी है, ठीक है, ये पृथ्वी जल से बना है. ये पहले जल था, उसने ये रूप ले लिया है. वह अग्नि थी, वो फायर थी, ठीक है. वही जो था वो पहले वो वायु वाली स्टेट में था, जो स्टेट्स ऑफ मैटर बोलते हैं फिजिक्स में. सॉलिड, लिक्विड, गैसियस बाद में नहीं बोलते हैं, इसे तीन ही बोलते हैं. एरियल, सॉरी, प्लाज्मिक और ईथरिक, ये टर्म्स एग्जिस्ट करते हैं फिजिक्स में. 19th सेंचुरी फिजिक्स में ईथर भी होती थी, ठीक है. एनीवे, पॉइंट इज कि ये जो अर्थ वाला मटेरियल है, ठीक है, ये इसका फाइनर फॉर्म, इसका सटलर फॉर्म इज दैट लिक्विड स्टेट, उसका सटलर फॉर्म इज दैट फायरी स्टेट, उसका सटलर फॉर्म इज दैट एरियल स्टेट, उसका सटलर फॉर्म इज दैट एथरिक स्टेट, ठीक है. उस एथरिक स्टेट का जो अल्टीमेट फॉर्म है, दैट इज दैट अव्यक्तम, दैट प्योर एनर्जी. वो कहां से आई है? दैट हैज कम फ्रॉम द परा प्रकृति. वो कहां से आई है? दैट हैज कम फ्रॉम द डिवाइन हिमसेल्फ. So this is the process, the procedure by which the Purushottama, the divine, the supreme Purusha becomes matter. That is what explains, जो occultists होते हैं उनको materialize करने का power होता है in the life of Shri Aurobindo ashram, that way there was an incident, okay, जिसमें कि बंद कमरे में, in a closed room, mother was there, Shri Aurobindo was there, somebody who had become little, miffed with them, एक cook को निकाल दिया था, he was not doing work properly, तो उसने जाके एक मुस्लिम तांत्रिक टाइप के आदमी को एंगेज किया, and that Muslim fellow, whatever tantric fellow, he was throwing stones out of thin air into Shri Aurobindo's household. एक दो लोगों को हिट हुआ, देन दे स्टार्टेड टेकिंग इट सीरियसली, देन मदर अंडरस्टूड कि ये क्या हो रहा है, राइट? वो क्या हो रहा था? मटीरियलाइजेशन। सावित्री में अगर आप देखें, जब नारद डिसेंट दिखाते हैं उसके अंदर, उस वाले कैंटो में, ईथर, एयर, फायर, लिक्विड, वहां पे आपको वर्ड्स दिखाई देंगे। व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज दिस इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ मटीरियलाइजेशन, एंड दिस कैन बी द प्रोसेस ऑफ डीमटीरियलाइजेशन ऑल्सो, रिवर्स प्रोसेस। ये यहां पे लिंक बना रहे हैं बिटवीन द सुप्रीम पुरुष एंड दिस मटीरियल फॉर्म, ये मैटर के बीच में। इज इट क्लियर सरिता? इज इट क्लियर?
Yeah, understood. Yeah,
ये
thank
हमने
you.
पहले भी किया था, बट जस्ट बिकॉज इट इज समथिंग सो फैसिनेटिंग।
Yeah.
वरना सी मिरेकल क्या होता है? देयर इज नो सच थिंग एज मिरेकल। मिरेकल वो होता है हमें जिसका प्रोसीजर नहीं मालूम है। अगर हमें उसका प्रोसीजर मालूम पड़ जाए, हमें उसकी मास्टरी आ जाए, तो हम वो खुद परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं। इट्स नो लॉन्गर अ मिरेकल, एटलीस्ट दिस इज द थियरी। हाँ,
Yeah.
Do I have permission to supplement?
yes sir, what are you talking about? Please go ahead.
It's an interesting phenomena in Bhagavad Puran, that the last 11th canto,
Okay.
when the Lord Krishna wanted to depart, and he was preaching to his friend Uddhav.
Okay.
And there are 20 chapters of there. In the last chapter, he says that कुछ लोग 5 तत्व मानते हैं, कुछ 10 मानते हैं, कुछ 15 मानते हैं, कुछ 18 मानते हैं, तो सब ठीक है। Everybody is right. He says everybody is right because ultimately it is me. और जो 24 मानो या 1 मानो, अगर मेरे को मान लो को इतना बहुत है। Again,
that depends on how you group things.
Again, it's a question of if you as a rationalist, as a materialist, or as you have described the science, here the Bhagavad as well as Gita, in both the divine himself is explaining. उसके बाद क्वेश्चन रहना नहीं चाहिए। दिस इज माय प्रिजम्पशन।
एंड आप जो वो बोल रहे हैं ना, उसी का गीता में 7th में अष्टधा बोलते हैं। भूमिरापो नलो वायु खम मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यम में भिन्नाः प्रकृतिर अष्टधा, वहां पे उसको 8 फोल्ड बोला है, उसको फर्दर एक्सपैंड नहीं किया। तो 8 या 24 डिपेंड्स ऑन हाउ मच यू एक्सपैंड, ऑन हाउ यू एक्सपैंड। ठीक है, दैट इज क्लियर। तो आई जस्ट फिनिश दिस पैराग्राफ, शायद किसी का क्वेश्चन भी हो एक आधा। ओके, which give their value to objects for the mind and make things what they are to our subjectivity. And as the substantial basis of these, the primary conditions of the objects of sense, the 5 elements, ये एकदम final level है, of ancient philosophy, or rather elementary conditions of nature, panchabhuta, which constitute objects by their various combinations. Yeah, एक सेकंड। हाँ, शब्द स्पर्श और गंध की बात यहाँ पे हुई थी। Objects for the mind and make things what they are to our subjectivity, and as the substantial basis of these, जो substance जिसको आप handle करेंगे, the primary conditions of the objects of sense, the 5 elements of ancient philosophy, or rather elementary conditions of nature, panchabhuta, which constitute objects by their various combinations. ये बेसिकली वही 13.6 को इन्होंने यहाँ पे किया है। इसको पैराग्राफ को याद रखते वक्त आप जो याद रखें, एक तो 13.6, ठीक है, एक 7.4, और एक ये थर्ड का 42, बिकॉज उसमें उल्टा ऑर्डर बताया है। इंद्रियाणि पराणि आहुः, बियॉन्ड द ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ द सेंसेस आर द सेंसेस, ऑब्जेक्ट्स उसमें इंप्लाइड है। ओके, इंद्रियेभ्यः परम मनः, उसमें बताया कि स्टेप बैक कैसे करना है। लास्ट टाइम जब आदित्य ने पूछा था कि ऑन द वन हैंड यू आर सेइंग कि वो यू हैव टू विड्रॉ द माइंड एंड यू हैव टू गो इनटू दैट सेल्फ, तो वो जाएं कैसे? देन आई हैड कोटेड दिस श्लोका कि यहाँ पे प्रोसेस ऐसे, फर्स्ट यू विड्रॉ द सेंसेस इनटू द माइंड, देन यू विड्रॉ द माइंड इनटू द बुद्धि, देन यू विड्रॉ द बुद्धि इटसेल्फ इनटू द सह, इनटू द पुरुष। इंद्रियाणि पराण्याहुः इंद्रियेभ्यः परम मनः, मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सह, जो बुद्धि के भी बियॉन्ड है, दैट इज दैट सह, दैट पुरुष। सह मतलब ही होता है, सह माने पुरुष। which constitute objects by their various combinations. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody has any question, sharing anything? Otherwise, we can close with silence.
अभी
Anmol,
आपने अनमोल
हाँ
अभी आपने बोला क्या बोलते हैं जस्ट लास्ट बिट दैट यू सेड कि पहले आपको अपनी आंखें बंद करके यू टेकन टू द
हाँ
बुद्धि एंड दिस एंड
हाँ
दैट
हाँ
सो
हाँ
ये कोई वो ये कोई चेम्बर्स तो बने नहीं हुए हैं कि हम इसमें से निकले तो इसमें चले गए उसमें दिस
Chambers
कम्स
नहीं
विद
बने हुए हैं.
एक्सपीरियंस आई थिंक इफ
Yes,
यू कीप
this
डूइंग
can
इट
only come by
एंड देन
experience. Yes, exactly. Meditation के अभ्यास से होगा.
हाँ
Meditating with a will to go within. But see, one can,
हम्म,
as you are meditating, you are making an effort, you can feel कि the consciousness has switched. अभी वो बाहर थी, अभी वो
यस
switch होकर के थोड़ा अंदर आ गई है. Then you might feel कि वो थोड़ा और अंदर आ गई है. You might start feeling the different layers of your consciousness. तो वो तो सारा
यस
exploration है. That is part of the inner journey. That is very, very personal. Yeah.
Anmol bhai, in this paragraph, he
Yes.
says the primary is, he starts by saying
हाँ
it is buddhi
हाँ
and its subordinate is ego,
हाँ
which is ahankar, and
अहंकार.
then the secondary is manas.
हाँ
Now, if you look at this table for us to achieve the divinity,
हाँ
the first part he gives to buddhi even before the formation of the ego or ahankar.
yes.
Now, when all of us, we even start thinking everything begins from I am. And so Anmol bhai will say I am Anmol, I will say I am Yogesh. So there's a formation of the ego. What this says is in the primary faculty, buddhi is even above.
Yeah.
And this ego consciousness is a subordinate to buddhi.
Yes.
And buddhi is the first, it is the primary, and that is the linkage to.
वही ना. हाँ.
Isn't Avyaktam the first?
नहीं,
First
अव्यक्तम के बाद से शुरू कर रहे हैं. योगेश is starting after the अव्यक्तम.
I'm reading the line. आप अगर if you just read this line again, अव्यक्तम आज अभी जो आपने line पढ़ा, it says the primary manas. It
This is
starts
very
with
interesting.
buddhi,
Yes.
and the subordinate of that is ego. Just read that line. So it
Yes.
starts by saying the primary, and then it says secondary is manas. If you read
Yes.
that line, you just read the paragraph.
First in order come buddhi, discriminative or determinative power. I should say here, बुद्धि के लिए there is another word in the Sankhya, महत. ठीक है? It's also called महत. और जो यहाँ बोल रहे हैं ना, discriminative और determinative power. See again, थोड़ा बहुत cross reference करना पड़ेगा. महत is the word also for supermind in the गीता. और ये कोई ऐसे ही कोइंसिडेंस नहीं है. इफ यू रीड द लाइफ डिवाइन, ठीक है, जब वो मैनिफेस्टेशन का प्रोसेस एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, वो कहते हैं फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल देयर आर दीज रियल आइडियाज इन द सुप्रामेंटल वर्ल्ड. और फिर ये रियल आइडियाज जो हैं दे स्टार्ट टेकिंग फॉर्म्स. ओके, तो वो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कि वो अलग अलग, वो पृथकत्व होना कि ये भी हो सकता है वो भी हो सकता है, उस तरह का डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है, डिटर्मिनेशन. ठीक है. एंड देन दैट स्टार्ट्स टेकिंग एन इंडिविजुअल फॉर्म. Then that starts taking an individual form. That individual form is the ego. It's subordinate power of self-discriminating ego. वो इस तरह से.
Exactly.
If
So
I
Anmol bhai,
give another this thing which will be very मतलब delightful and what should I say, useful for all basically people here, कि जो सत चित शक्ति आनंद है, ठीक है, सच्चिदानंद, Sri Aurobindo says it's चित शक्ति. So in the supramental, just मैं बोल रहा हूँ and then I'll allow Yogesh bhai to speak. So that at the supramental जब वो सारा का सारा united है, ठीक है, it is just one purusha. When that takes a step down, okay, when it becomes an individual personality of Sat, individual personality of Chit, individual personality of Shakti, individual personality of Ananda, then we get those names. ब्रह्मा को, सत को बोलते हैं ब्रह्मा, चित को बोलते हैं विष्णु, शक्ति वाले पर्सनालिटी को बोलते हैं शिव, और आनंद वाले पर्सनालिटी को बोलते हैं कृष्ण. दिस इज देयर इन एसेस डिवाइन इन ह्यूमन, वॉल्यूम 12 पेज 208 में है वो. ठीक है. तो इट्स इनक्रेडिबल. जब मैंने उसको पहली बार पढ़ा था, मैं कहा वाओ, यू नो, इवन ये तक समझाया हुआ है कि कैसे ये होता है अलग अलग. नॉर्मली यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू डिस्टिंग्विश कि क्या अलग है, कैसे है, ये वो सारा का सारा एकदम परफेक्टली समझाया हुआ है उसमें. This is an example because see, pure existence is an idea, pure consciousness, pure shakti, वो एक है at the supramental level and at the सच्चिदानंद level they are one, but वो distinct होते हैं. ठीक है. नेचर में और डिवाइन में आप एसेंशियली कॉन्शियसनेस और फोर्स का फर्क है कि जहां फोर्स बहुत ज्यादा है वहां कॉन्शियसनेस नहीं है. जहां कॉन्शियसनेस बहुत ज्यादा है वहां स्टैटिसिटी है बट वहां फोर्स नहीं है, इस तरह से, तो वो परफेक्टली यूनाइट होने. दैट इज वाई वी फाइंड समटाइम्स दीज कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स अमंग द गॉड्स, इवन द हायर गॉड्स इन द पुराणास, कि शिवा ने एक बूंद दिया और विष्णु को कैंसिल करना पड़ा, एंड वाइस वर्सा, एंड ऑल दिस इज देयर. कभी कभी होता है. Krishna is taking a human form and he has to go and kill an asura. That asura happens to be a devotee of Shiva, and Krishna and Shiva have to confront each other somewhat. ये क्यों होता है सारा का सारा? इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ दिस, कि जब वो ईगो का एलिमेंट आता है ओवर माइंड लेवल पे, मैं कोरिलेट कर रहा हूं जितना समझ में आएगा उतना, अदरवाइज इसके प्रॉपर ट्रीटमेंट के लिए देयर इज नो अदर ऑप्शन एक्सेप्ट टू रीड द लाइफ डिवाइन. देयर इज नो अदर ऑप्शन. कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री रीडिंग आप सावित्री ले सकते हैं. सावित्री से आपको बहुत रसमय पोएट्री में आपको वो समझ में आएगा, फील होगा. सावित्री कैन नॉट रियली बी अंडरस्टूड विद द माइंड. इट हैज टू बी रेड एंड देन द इम्प्रिंट इट लीव्स इन यू, उससे एक अवेकनिंग आती है. But properly speaking, if you have to understand, I'm saying again and again, there is no other way except to read the life divine. Okay? Yogesh bhai, sorry for making
Yeah. No, not at all. Anmol bhai, firstly, tremendous gratitude. Please do share this article, this reference that you've just given.
I'll certainly do.
And Krishna being delight. आपने अभी ये जो बताया.
I'll do it.
Please do share that. My point is that this categorically says that the primary is buddhi and its a subordinate is the ego, right? Now, in the human existence, we first operate, every thought of mine emerges from the fact I am Yogesh. So the ego is not just subordinate, it's the principal, primary. Now it says buddhi is above that. And the ego is a subordinate.
Yes.
Now, to understand this, because this means that all of us have the capability and a faculty of buddhi that we can engage with as a ego consciousness of Yogesh. If I want to engage with this buddhi, he's categorically saying that is the primary.
Yes.
And your subordinate ego should look up to buddhi. Now, what is this buddhi? This is the clarity I need. That so it's all the other pieces which follow from the ego to the manas, which is the secondary, then to the sense organs. Everything is crystal clear. But this buddhi, which is what my ego is subordinate to, what is this buddhi, Anmol?
It is the कैसे बोलूं? Actually, it is the equivalent of the supramental consciousness in the human system. Intelligence, I mean, कैसे wisdom. It is that which will basically, मतलब being stable in which सत्व गुण आप समझ लो for the moment. ठीक है, अगर आप वैसे समझना चाहते हो तो again it's not a correct analogy because वो गुणों का इनके अंदर भी intermixture होता है. It is the equivalent of the supermind in the lower hemisphere. Basically, that knowledge faculty. Acha, okay, you understand it like this. There is a part of your mind which is open to higher things, right? Which is unselfish, which is impersonal, etc. Which has that discrimination, not to get flattered or not to get insulted, etc. etc. जो होता है ना, that is that buddhi element. That impersonal, that selfless element, pure knowledge को जो आपके अंदर चीज सीख करती है ना, that. And once you start concentrating on that, ego अपने आप melt होने लगेगी. Basically, that impersonal aspect, that wisdom aspect, and that will be the gateway to the higher consciousness.
So, Anmol bhai, if there's a reference of Life Divine which will help to elaborate this
that will be very difficult to find out. I will try अगर मुझे कुछ ऐसा मिल जाता है तो, but that will not be so easy. वो ब्रह्मा कृष्णा वाला I know where it is. Volume 12, page 208 पे है. That I will do it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Anybody else? Otherwise, we close.
Anmol, the last question. What I had an understanding till now was that this manas is something which is there in everybody, the same, because we all have an understanding of what our senses want and how we want to fulfill them. But buddhi is something which is different in everyone, like the intelligence. So would you look at it that way? I mean, that was, I thought of that till now.
यही तो बोल रहे हैं, discriminate. आप बुद्धि का definition देखो ना यहाँ पे क्या दिया है, discriminative और determinative power. Discriminate का क्या मतलब होता है? अलग अलग करना, isn't it?
So
Determinate मतलब एक term, आपकी खुद की विवेक, yes.
So this is something which is different in everybody.
Yes.
But
its principle is the same, but its level of development is different in different individuals.
Yeah, but the sense mind or the manas is the same in everybody.
Again, मैंने जैसे बोला था कि जैसे clear audience और वो सब जो है powers, वो जब आपका प्योर, मैं कैसे समझाऊं, मतलब मेरा तो नहीं है। जो प्योर मनस वाली जो चीज है ना, जब वो इतनी पावरफुल हो जाएगी, या व्हेन यू कैन यूज प्योर मनस, मे बी यू आर राइट कि द मनस इज द सेम इन एवरीबॉडी, बट द
हाँ,
पावर टू यूज दैट प्योर मनस, ठीक है,
ओके, हाँ हाँ,
जब वो
उसमें
इतना डेवलप हो जाएगा, देन यू कैन हैव दैट क्लियर ऑडियंस, क्लियर विजन एटसेट्रा, वो ऑटोमेटिकली आ जाएगा।
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that also
This,
has a
Man,
yes. Manas is
Manas, I
basically
think, gives rise to emotions and all, and Buddhi is the one who determines, um,
emotions, not exactly
uh,
sensations actually, not emotions. Manas is the perceiving just for part. But हाँ, आप जब कुछ परसीव करते हैं, उसके बाद इट कैन लीड टू जनरेट सम
emotions.
इमोशंस दैट वे, हाँ, बट प्रॉपर
And
वर्ड
the
जो
Buddhi
इमोशन
is the
के
one
लिए
that
है,
deciding.
या प्रॉपर वर्ड जो इमोशन के लिए, ऐसी इमोशन ये वाला पॉइंट है, ओके, हार्ट चक्र है, दिस इज वेयर द मेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस जॉइंस द वाइटल कॉन्शियसनेस, ठीक है। तो बट वो श्री अरविंदो का सिस्टम का कैटेगरी है मनस, और उसको मनस इज जस्ट द परसेप्टिव पार्ट, कि आपने ये परसीव किया, हाँ, बट या इट कैन लीड टू इमोशंस, इट कैन लीड टू सम इमोशन, आप कुछ देखोगे दैट्स
Yes.
परसीव्ड बाय द मनस एंड दैट कैन लीड, बट इट्स नॉट जस्ट इमोशन, इट्स नॉट जस्ट इमोशन,
कहते हैं ना कि अपने में इमोशंस आती हैं, 10 बातें आती हैं दिमाग में, बट द
हाँ,
बुद्धि इज द वन हु डिसाइड्स कि वेदर हाँ
हाँ,
ये करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए,
या
राइट? सो
एक्चुअली, हाँ,
बुद्धि इज बेसिक the equivalent of the Sattva Anand, the supreme consciousness is the equivalent, the lower world, the lower. Am I right?
yeah, basically not to get affected by it and have a certain poise and all that,
Yeah,
yeah, correct,
equanimity. Then you reach
yeah,
that equanimity,
yeah. Whereas this thing is simply based on appearances, कि मैंने ये देखा and this is what I have perceived and that's it. Appearances can be deceptive, जैसे वो मिराज का एग्जांपल दिया जाता है, यू आर ड्राइविंग ऑन अ हॉट डे ऑन अ रोड, कंक्रीट की रोड होती है, एंड व्हाइल यू ड्राइविंग यू सी वाटर आगे जा करके,
Water,
तो
yeah.
मनस ने क्या परसीव किया, मनस ने परसीव किया कि पानी है, और उसने वो पिक्चर छपा दी चित्त के अंदर, बट जो बुद्धि है उसने आगे जा करके फिजिक्स वगैरह में जैसे पढ़ाते हैं, वो पूरा उसका सनलाइट वगैरह का फिनोमिना, द रिफ्लेक्शन एंड ऑल जो होता है, उसके थ्रू दे एक्सप्लेन कि हाउ द मिराज इज फॉर्म्ड। बट अगर वो, जब तक वो बुद्धि उतनी विकसित नहीं हुई होती, नहीं हुई थी ह्यूमैनिटी के अंदर, टिल दैट टाइम दे वुड बी जस्ट वंडरस्ट्रक कि अरे ये क्या था यार, दूर से तो लग रहा था पानी है, बट ये तो एक्चुअली पानी नहीं था, है ना।
can we say buddhi is number one?
हाँ,
If we just give it a thing, and ego is number two,
यस,
and then manas is number three,
या,
and then the specializing organic senses is number four.
हाँ, इंद्रियां,
The indriya.
हाँ,
And then the power of the tanmatra is
तन्मात्र
number
नंबर
five.
5, हाँ,
And
और
then
उसके एकदम
finally the
एंड में, हाँ, द
Panchabhuta. That is
महाभूतानी,
number
यस यस,
that is the
perfect,
numbers.
perfect, that is the order,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Shall we close with silence?
Thank you, Anol.
Most welcome. सरिता, कुछ बोल रही हैं आप?
नहीं, I'm just thanking you.
अच्छा, नहीं, no need. I am stopping the recording.